If you've ever had a holiday where something felt off but you couldn't explain why, you're not the only one. Story 1. This was 2022. I booked a solo trip to Puerto Vallarta because I needed a break from everything. The resort was all-inclusive and mostly families, which suited me fine. On the second night, I went to the hotel bar on my own. It was busy but not packed. I ordered a drink and sat at one of the high tables near the edge of the patio. About 20 minutes in, a man sat down across from me without asking. He was maybe mid-30s, well-dressed, and he started talking to me like we already knew each other. He asked if I was enjoying the resort, how long I was staying, and whether I'd been to certain restaurants nearby. Normal tourist conversation on the surface, but something about the pacing was wrong. He wasn't making small talk. He was collecting answers. I kept things vague and said I was meeting friends soon. He smiled and said he could tell I was alone. Not in a flirty way, more like he was correcting me. I got up and said I had to go. He didn't try to stop me, but as I walked past the bartender caught my eye and said quietly that he'd seen that guy do this before. He said he usually picked women who came down alone, and that the last girl he'd seen him talking to had left the resort early. I asked if the hotel knew about him. The bartender said he'd mentioned it. Then he looked away like he wished he hadn't said anything. I went back to my room and deadbolted the door. The next morning, I asked the front desk about the man. They said they had no record of anyone matching his description as a guest. He wasn't staying there. I don't know how he was getting in. Story 2. Spring break 2021, my buddy Kyle and I went to Panama City Beach. We were both 23 and not really planning anything beyond the usual bars and beach stuff. The second night, we met a group at a club who invited us to a house party a few miles down the coast. Kyle wanted to go. I didn't, but I wasn't going to let him go alone. We got a ride with 2 guys from the group. The drive took longer than they said it would. We ended up on a residential road with no street lights and pulled into the driveway of a house that was completely dark. No music, no cars out front, no sign of any kind of party. One of the guys said everyone was around the back. We walked around the side of the house, and there was nothing there either. Just a patio with some chairs and a sliding door that was open. Kyle said maybe we were early. Then the guy who'd driven us said we should go inside and wait. I told Kyle we were leaving. He looked at me like I was overreacting, but he didn't argue. We turned around and started walking back toward the road. Nobody followed us, but I heard the sliding door close behind us. We walked for about 40 minutes before we hit a main road and called a cab. Kyle didn't talk about it the next day. When I brought it up, he just said it was probably nothing. I still think about how dark that house was and the fact that there was no party anywhere near it. Story 3. I went to Tulum in 2023 with 3 friends. The Airbnb was beautiful and the host seemed normal. He met us at check-in, gave us the keys, and said to message if we needed anything. The first 2 days were great. On the 3rd morning, I woke up before everyone else and went to make coffee. The kitchen window faced a narrow alley between our building and the one next door. While I was waiting for the water to boil, I looked out and saw a camera mounted on the wall of the other building, pointed directly at our kitchen window. It was small, the kind you'd barely notice unless you were standing right there. I told my friends when they woke up. One of them said it was probably just building security. That made sense and I almost dropped it. But later that day, I walked around the outside of our building and found 2 more. One pointed at the bedroom window on the ground floor where 2 of us were sleeping, and another aimed at the front door. None of them were on our building. They were all on the neighboring wall, angled specifically at our unit. I messaged the host and asked about the cameras. He read the message and didn't reply for 6 hours. When he finally responded, he said they belonged to the building next door and had nothing to do with him. I asked if he knew who owned that building. He said no. Later that night, one of my friends checked the Airbnb listing again. The host owned both buildings. His name was on the property details for the one next door. We left the next morning and reported the listing. It was taken down a week later, then reappeared under a different name with the same photos. Story 4. This was my freshman year, 2020, right before everything shut down. A group of us drove to a lake house in East Texas that someone's cousin had offered up for cheap. There were 6 of us, and the house was old but had enough beds. The property sat at the end of a dirt road with no other houses in sight. The first night, we were sitting around a fire pit in the back when we heard a car pull up out front. Nobody was expecting anyone. 2 of the guys went around to check and came back saying there was a truck parked at the end of the driveway with its headlights off. The engine was running. They said they couldn't see who was inside because the windows were tinted. We watched it from the porch for a while. It just sat there. After about 30 minutes, the headlights came on. The truck reversed slowly, and it left. We told ourselves it was probably someone who took a wrong turn. The next night, it came back. Same truck, same spot, same time. Headlights off, engine idling. This time it stayed for over an hour. One of the guys walked toward it, and when he got about 15 meters away, the truck started moving. Not fast, just pulling away slowly, like it didn't want to seem rushed. On the 3rd night, the truck didn't come. Instead, we found boot prints in the mud along the side of the house, beneath the window of the room where 2 of the girls were sleeping. They hadn't been there that morning. We packed up and drove home that night. When we told the cousin what happened, he got quiet for a second, and then said previous renters had mentioned something similar. He'd never thought to warn us. Which of these situations would scare you the most? Have you had anything similar happen to you? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there.